When it comes to building soil that truly sustains life, most gardeners focus on layering scraps, waiting months, and, just hoping for the best. But what if I told you there's a method so simple, yet astonishingly effective, that it can transform ordinary kitchen and garden waste into nutrient-rich compost in record time? I recently put the 2-scrap compost booster to the test, and honestly, the results were nothing short of unbelievable. Over the next few minutes, we'll dive into how this method works, why it's historically rooted in practices that date back centuries, and how you can apply it to your own garden or survival setup for maximum effect. Understanding why a simple booster can change everything. Composting is often seen as a passive process. Add organic matter, water, and wait. Yet decomposition is driven by tiny organisms, microbes, bacteria, and fungi that feed on specific nutrients. The genius of the 2-scrap compost booster lies in targeting these microbes with 2 carefully chosen boosters that accelerate the breakdown of organic material. Historically, small additions like ash, manure, or fermented plant extracts were used to speed decomposition in gardens and farms long before modern fertilizers existed. What this method does is distill that age-old wisdom into a repeatable, practical approach anyone can use. Selecting the right scraps for the booster. The first step is knowing which scraps to use. The method relies on pairing one high-nitrogen scrap, like vegetable peels, coffee grounds, or fresh grass clippings, with one high-carbon scrap, such as dry leaves, cardboard, or straw. The high-nitrogen scrap feeds the microbes quickly, while the high-carbon component gives structure and slows the release of nutrients, preventing them from washing away. For instance, during my test, I combined banana peels with shredded paper, and the microbial activity was visibly vigorous within days. Even survivalists working with limited resources can find these materials in kitchens, yards, or local forests, making the method both accessible and low cost. Preparing your compost for the booster. Once you have your 2 scraps, preparation is key. Begin by chopping or shredding the materials into small pieces, ensuring that microbes can access as much surface area as possible. Next, layer them in a shallow trench or a contained bed, adding a small amount of water to maintain consistent moisture. The trick is to avoid drowning the microbes. They thrive in a damp, not soggy, environment. Historically, farmers understood the importance of moisture balance, often watering compost lightly after morning dew or rainfall, creating conditions that encouraged rapid decomposition. So, let's talk about how the booster actually speeds up decomposition. The 2-scrap method works because, it creates a sort of micro-ecosystem that's just right for the organisms responsible for decay. Nitrogen-rich scraps give immediate energy, while carbon-rich scraps offer microbes the structure they need to colonize and spread. This combination, you see, traps heat naturally within the pile, which really helps to accelerate the breakdown of organic matter. Within about a week, the compost starts to darken and you'll notice an earthy aroma. That's a clear sign that humus formation is underway. For survivalists or gardeners getting soil ready for a new season, this means you can turn waste into fertile compost in days, not months. Now, even with a fast-acting method like this, attention is absolutely crucial. You'll want to monitor the moisture every day, adding just a bit of water if the pile feels dry. And every so often, mix the layers gently. This helps prevent anaerobic pockets from forming, which can slow down decomposition and, produce some rather unpleasant odours. Personally, I've found that lightly turning the compost every 2 or 3 days while keeping the moisture consistent results in the richest and most uniform humus I've ever produced. It's a step that actually mirrors historical compost practices, where farmers would turn their piles regularly to keep the microbes balanced and ensure even decomposition. Applying the compost in your garden or survival setup is honestly one of the most rewarding steps. Once your compost reaches a dark, crumbly and earthy state, it's ready to enrich your soil. You just spread it across planting beds before sowing seeds, or mix it directly into existing soil to boost nutrient content. For long-term survival or self-sufficiency gardens, the 2-scrap compost booster can also be used to rejuvenate depleted patches by layering the finished humus under mulch, which, slowly releases nutrients over time. In my own trial, crops grown in beds amended with the booster-developed humus were noticeably more vigorous than those in traditionally composted beds, demonstrating the method's tangible benefits. Why is this method a game-changer for beginners and experts alike? Well, the brilliance of the 2-scrap compost booster is its simplicity. Beginners can follow the process without guesswork, and seasoned gardeners or historical agriculture enthusiasts can experiment with different scrap combinations or timing intervals to optimize results. Beyond productivity, it fosters a deeper understanding of soil biology and the historical methods that have, frankly, sustained human agriculture for centuries. Whether you're growing vegetables in a backyard or preparing a long-term survival plot, this method is a practical, low-cost and scientifically grounded approach to building soil fertility. The 2-scrap compost booster is more than just a composting trick. It's a bridge between historical wisdom and modern gardening efficiency. By carefully pairing 2 complementary scraps, you can create rich humus rapidly, feeding plants, supporting ecosystems, and making the most of resources that would otherwise go to waste. If you found this method as fascinating and useful as I did, don't forget to subscribe to Hydro Haven and share this video with fellow history buffs, gardeners and survivalists. Every like and subscription helps us explore more techniques that combine historical insight with practical real-world applications for your garden and beyond.